All right, good evening. Tonight's our Urban Technologies and Innovation and Environment Committee. Tonight is Thursday, January 29, 2026. We are in Esther Howland Chamber. Today we are joined by Councilor Rivera to my right, and Councilor King is on his way, so he should be attending soon, Vice Chair Councilor King. And also by Chief of Sustainability Office, John Odell. So, Claire, can you like to read number 1, please?
Certainly. Through the chair, pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and in order to ensure active public engagement, the City of Worcester currently allows for both in-person and remote participation at all City Council and standing committee meetings. To partake in this meeting, you may attend the meeting in person here in the Esther Howland Chamber of City Hall, or follow the link on the city's website to join via Zoom, or dial the direct line. If you join a Zoom meeting by dialing in with a phone number, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. The Urban Technologies Innovation and Environment Committee's Zoom phone number is 1-646-828 7666, and the passcode is 1600693385.
Okay, thank you. Let's do a roll call for approval of minutes.
Councilor King, Councilor Rivera,
Here.
and Chairperson Councilor Ojeda.
Yes. All right, we'll be moving on to 3, communication of the city manager. A, transmitting informational communication relative to zero waste master plans. And you're up, Mr. Odell.
Through the chair. Yes, so to give you a quick update, this has been a long-term effort. We're looking to basically look at systemically from top to bottom a lot of our processes in cooperation with our DPW department. Want to just let folks know Commissioner Westerling has been great, very supportive of our efforts here to sort of craft a good master plan to go forward for the next 5-10 years. We're looking at a wide range of different topics. We've had a lot of feedback from the public already. We've had a couple in-person meetings. We've had Zoom meetings. We've had 2 surveys. At the end of this, we're going to end up with, to date right now, we have a list of about 27 measures that will probably be talked about in the plan itself. They'll be broken out into 3 categories: short-term, medium-term, long-term. And the focus will probably end up being in 3 broad areas. One being focusing a little bit on wheeled carts, as the pros and cons of that, and recommendations based on that. Organics, we're going to be looking at that. We've done a waste characterization study, which basically just to analyze what's in our trash. And a significant portion of the waste that is in the waste stream is organic based. So if we can remove that from the waste stream, we can actually save a fair bit on our tipping fees, which we send all that waste to the incinerator, and if the less we bring there, obviously the less we get charged. So we're looking at to see what that how that could possibly work, what options we have. And then of course into the very successful last year, if you recall back in August, there was DPW organized a cleaning of the streets and surroundings of city-owned property, a big effort to that. The feedback we've gotten from the public has been very positive on doing something like that on an annual basis or even semi-annual basis. It's not inexpensive to do, so we'd have to figure that out, but all that's going to be reviewed and looked at as part of the plan. We are looking at a date right now of sometime in the back end of April that we'll have a draft plan available for our steering committee to review and to check, and then obviously bring it to the council for a vote for endorsement.
Okay, thank you. Claire, before I get into some questioning, is there anyone online?
Through the chair, at this time, there are no residents online.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, John, obviously this is all very important stuff for our city, for our residents to understand, what the master plan is and how we go about getting them involved. And I've had, multiple conversations with you on getting more residents involved and how do we meet them where they're at to understand this master plan. So when it comes to conducting public engagement efforts, including online community survey, listening sessions, do you have an idea of, is it going to be throughout the districts? Is it going to be focused on, what areas of the city are we focusing on?
Yes, so through the chair. So most of that actual work has been completed. What we've done to date is we had 2 in-person meetings, one over at the Senior Center, one here, I believe at City Hall. We ended up having about 30 or so people come to each of those meetings. We did them online as well and got a little bit more than that, probably maybe 30, 35 meetings on Zoom that basically covered the exact same topics we were talking about in the in-person meetings, but giving folks a different chance to get involved. What we think was the problem is with these kinds of things, it's tough to get people to come to meetings nowadays. It's just, people are busy, I totally get it. And we don't want the situation where we have, 30 or 40 people, often people who are, some of which are really into this kind of stuff, and some people who have lots of concerns about that. And so you have the 2 extremes making decisions, 30 or 40 people making it for, literally 200,000 plus people in the community. And so we want to be more open to that, open to more voices to that. So to that, we ended up doing 2 surveys where we got feedback from those one-on-one interview meetings that we had. So we asked the right questions, and then those surveys were actually very well responded to. So the first one got over 1,800 responses. The second one got about 800. But it was done in a shorter time period and right over the holidays, so I'm not shocked that it was not quite as many as the first one. But people are very interested in this topic, and we're using that as one of the key tools, along with obviously the expertise we have over with our consultant and with DPW in particular, to sort of lay out what the next steps will be as part of this plan. But I want to just emphasize that we really did try to make a concerted effort to get the community involved and to hear their opinions on this. Not only asking questions where they could respond with the, check, but also open-ended responses too. So if they had a narrative that they wanted to share, like a particular concern, they'd have that opportunity to do that.
Okay.
And we had hundreds of responses to that as well.
Perfect, thank you. And just, again, with the surveys and reaching out, has there been an effort within the schools? We do have a lot of young teens that are out and about, probably more than some of the elderly in the streets and see what's going on. Has there been any connections with them to be a part of some of this survey stuff?
We did. We did reach out right to the school department on a couple of occasions, both in the waste characterization study that we did, so specifically to understand what is happening with the waste streams at the schools, and also to work with folks in the school system itself, a couple teachers, as well as some administrative folks in terms of what the schools are doing and what they would like to be able to doing. We talked to the facility staff as well. Some of the limitations they have on site in terms of space for some of these schools. We talked about that of we don't want to do a one-size-fits-all solution that actually just doesn't work at a few schools. So we're very cognizant of trying to bring those people to the table. We did not, to I think your questions more specifically, invite students specifically to the table on some of that. They were obviously, if they wanted to respond to the survey, they could have, and some did that were younger, though most were obviously not in the school system. But we did get a fair response from, like I said, from teachers and administrators. We did think that we should make sure that the school system was included in this because they play a big, significant role.
Okay, thank you. I guess you had mentioned the street sweeping. I feel as though, from what I've heard throughout my district, and I'm pretty sure through other districts as well, that we need more street sweeping. I know I've reached out to DPW, and in other cities, you see cars would move, they come by, and I've said this to you before, they come by, they clean, and the cars go back. But that's also built a relationship with the residents and stuff like that. So I would really love to figure out a way where we can continue to do that type of stuff. And then, are we still doing the green bags with the residents and neighborhood champions and things like that? Can you just fill me in on how that's working?
Yes, that's through the chair. Yes, so that program has, which has existed in the past, it had been, for those not familiar, the Blue Bag program. It's now the Green Bag program. And it allows neighborhood champions to do just what you described, which is great. We've actually had a bunch of additional folks to come on board based on outreach efforts by not just the city, but we've actually involved some local community groups who have reached out to folks in their neighborhood who were interested in this. And so we've actually now expanded the number of people who are cleaning up around their own neighborhoods participating in this program. So it actually has had a noticeable effect, we believe. It's only a piece of the puzzle. I want to emphasize that it's going to take a lot of different solutions to solve this problem, including, the better managing the recycling, the street sweeping, as you mentioned, champions that can lead the effort, street sweeping, all of that's on the table, and we hope to get a cohesive understanding of that through this Zero Waste Master Plan.
Okay, thank you. I could probably go on and on. I want to make sure my other counselors, my other colleagues are involved. But when it comes to the waste bins, right, the recycle bins, has there been an effort on making them bigger? I think that's probably one of the main concerns we have, is that they're just easy to top over. You can't, once you fill it, you got to put it on the side or whatever, or find another container. What is the actual size of a container that a resident can use? Is it like a 32-gallon they can fill up, and they'll, that's stuff that I want to be able to and share through this committee on how we can help our residents, and then obviously we'll talk about the trash bag napkin, but especially the recycle bins.
Yes, through the chair. So the current bins, just for reference, are 22-gallon bins. We are looking at potentially larger bins as to explore what those options would be. The two most common sizes are 32 and 64. The 64 are sort of the larger bins that you've probably seen in other communities where they've rolled them out. Mm-hmm. They have a version very similar to that, just smaller. That's the 32, but still bigger than what we have now. So we're looking at those options. They have pros and cons for both of them, but including pricing, so we want to look at that, and incentives. But in addition to that, I wanted to emphasize that people are not obligated just to use our bins. If they have their own bin, whether they get one at Home Depot or wherever, they can certainly use that in addition to the ones that we provide. They will be picked up. As long as it's obviously filled with recycling materials. The folks from Casella, who's our contractor, who picks up the recycling, they'll come by and take that. So you can tell folks any bin of roughly that size, equivalent, will be emptied along with the green bin as well.
Any notification has gone out with that to residents?
There has. There's been, we've done some, I know we haven't directly through our department, but I know DPW has made that effort out there. I think it's something that we want to emphasize again on a more regular basis. It's been done intermittently, but I think it would be nice if we did that probably like every quarter. We just let people know until we either go out with new bins or make some other kind of change.
Okay.
So I'll recommend that.
Councilor Rivera?
Through the chair to the administration, the Zero Waste Master Plan, are you guys all done with the meetings and putting all that together, or you guys that's still in the works?
So meetings now are basically with our consultant and with our steering committee. So there's a steering committee of representatives from the city who are interested and who have obviously some vested interest in this. And so that committee, which includes, in fact, a former assistant commissioner, Bob Fiore, on this, who knows more about this stuff than probably anybody in the city. He's a great resource, and he's been very helpful on the committee in providing good input, among many others as well. So that right now is where we're getting the last of the feedback, but we're not looking to going out to the public going
Gotcha.
forward.
Is there a way where city council can be involved in these meetings?
Let me circle back with you on that
Okay.
directly. I will see it's that may be able to do that. I can appreciate it's sort of we're sort of caught in a catch-22. If we put out a draft plan and we give it to the council, then all of a sudden it becomes public, and then people start saying that this is what it is, and it isn't necessarily.
Right.
It's a draft. But you know how the news works, and so we're trying to be very cautious about not putting out things before they're actually ready to be put
No,
out.
definitely.
And so how to balance that is something I'd love to work with you on offline, so that we can see what would be the best way to do that for any counselor or counselors that wanted to participate. So I'll circle back on that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All set? Councilor King?
Thank you. I had a question on what is the intersection with the Department of Public Works in all of this?
Sure. So the Department of Sustainability got involved with this in part as had been looking into specifically into the organic waste issue. When our previous commissioner and our current commissioner came on board, but our previous commissioner was interested in maybe we could do something on a larger scale to do some kind of master plan. That tied in well with when with our zero waste coordinator position, which is under DSR. That is why our department got tasked with spearheading this, but we wanted to make sure, obviously, DPW plays a key role in managing both the recycling contract as well as doing the waste management directly themselves. And
Can you repeat that last part?
so DPW, obviously, they pick up the trash. Casella, they manage the contract with Casella, which manages the recycling portion of it. And so they clearly have play a key role in this. And so they've been super supportive, and we've been working collaboratively with our consultant to draft this plan that will work for DPW, works for the city, works for our constituents. Nothing will be perfect, but we hope that we can have something that will actually. The current plan, I should mention too, just for reference, the current plan isn't like it doesn't work. Trash gets picked up, recycling gets picked up. It's just that we want to make what we do better. And so this is an effort to do that. And everyone's on board to do that. City manager as well.
Thank you. When you say the current plan, you're speaking to the zero waste
Correct.
plan, correct? Thank you for that. You brought up Casella. When is that contract up? I thought it was soon.
The contract for recycling ends in, I believe, the end of 27.
27.
I believe that's correct. It's either June of 27 or December. I'll have to double check on that.
So a bit away.
We have a little time, which is good because it takes a bit to do a new contract.
And how long has your department been in existence? I know it's relatively new.
We've been around, we
years?
started in 2021, the
Oh, it's
fiscal
close.
year
5
21.
years. Okay.
Yep.
And to what degree do you have any input on the contract with Casella?
We're on the outside looking in. We're supportive and trying to help the commissioner, but the commissioner, Westerling at DPW, is playing point on that.
Thank you. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit also about, the residential drop-off center. That's a location for the public that you can safely dispose of bulk items, textiles, recyclables, yard waste, et cetera. Requires proof of residency. And the reason I'm bringing up is that this has been a source of discussion on the council, my personal frustration that I've expressed directly to the city manager, to the appropriate commissioners, et cetera. And my guess is, and I guess this is a question, the whole purpose of all this is to make us have a cleaner city, a more sustainable, more greener city. And it goes to capacity and ease of access. So I can just wonder, my specific concern here for the drop-off center is the hours. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 business days, they close at 3 p.m. For folks that are on a 9 to 5 schedule, that's difficult. There's one day during the work week, Wednesday, the traditional work week, Wednesdays it's open till 7, and it requires an appointment. That is a reduction of access, in my opinion. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to how important it is to safely dispose of the items that the drop-off center is able to receive, and what is the overall purpose of that drop-off center as relates to the goals of this plan.
Through the chair. So yes, the drop-off center is actually one of the key pieces that we will reference and talk about in the plan itself. And we are looking specifically at some of the concerns you note. Hours of operation, including not just having opportunities for folks after traditional work hours to be able to drop off items, but also in terms of what items can be dropped off and how the appointments process can play out. The appointment process actually is very valuable for just managing the site itself, which is very helpful, but we do want to make it as seamless and as easy as possible for folks to do that. We are looking at all of that. I don't have any specific answers for you today in terms of what the actual recommendations will be, but I can tell you that every one of your questions is actually something that has been brought up and will be looked at and is being looked at currently as part of this plan.
And can you just repeat, I think you said it during your presentation, I apologize, but what is the time frame within which this plan should be executed?
Yeah, through the chair, we're hoping to have a draft final version of this sometime in April, probably the latter half of April, which would then be hopefully finalized and sent to the committee for approval shortly thereafter. So that might be early May.
And overall, this plan should be reducing costs for the city. It should be reducing emissions, and these are measurables, right? Greenhouse gases, etc. How are we measuring, or how will we measure, and what are the benchmarks for successful implementation and realization of this plan?
Through the chair, so I think there's a couple benchmarks that we'll be looking at. Carbon reduction certainly is one. Removing waste is actually one of the most effective and cost-effective ways to reduce emissions. Taking waste out of the waste stream, when you burn it or when you landfill it, you get methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas emission. It also has carbon emissions as well, especially when you burn it. And there's many other pollutants when you burn it as well. Most of them are captured, but a little bit does escape. And so we can actually, by reducing our waste stream, we can measure exactly how much our waste stream has been reduced by. We track that. And so we can there is a calculation that can be done that can indicate, based on this reduced tonnage, we can have this reduced amount of emissions. So that's one. In terms of dollars, we are looking at expanding services potentially without increasing costs or minimizing increased costs on one end. And hopefully, if we do have to increase costs on one end, we're getting savings on the other, which is in the tipping fees. And so that math equation is something that we're actually calculating out as part of this plan to see what measures measure out best in terms of being a good value for the taxpayers. So that's how we'll measure what we're going to be doing, and we'll have that report that we'll have here will be hopefully help us all to decide what priority items we want to focus on. Some of the items like containerizing has real value in terms of reducing
What do you mean
litter.
by
Containerizing, so better containers for recycling, because the current recycling bins often are broken. The containers covers don't work very well. We get, on a windy day, we get an awful lot of litter that can result from that, among other reasons for litter in the street, but that's certainly one of them. Having better containers, we think, can help that problem. It's just one of multiple solutions, but that's a big one. That has less carbon savings and potentially more costs, but we think that there are real value wins for our city to do that. But that obviously is something that will be a likely recommendation, but the cost may make that prohibitive. It's to be determined still.
Thank you. You know, we've talked about this. I've been on the council 10 years now. It's very frustrating, not just for the cleanliness of the city, but also, as you mentioned, greenhouse gases, reducing, all of these things. And we have these conversations over and over again. Things that jump out at me that are very easy to fix are related to access to the drop-off center, where the items that we referenced are able to be left. I've gone there during the daytime, during the week, on a weekend, at times where there's no one there. No one. I have my stuff in my car. They won't let me drop it off. It's absurd. And what happens is people end up getting busy during the week. Weekends are doing their family stuff. Now they have stuff. I've had it in my car 2, 3, 4 weeks. And people get tempted to dump. Mr. Chairman Ojeda, I would recommend, either by a motion, if you don't accept the chairman's order, that we make a motion that the access to the residential drop-off be increased in the interest of realizing the goals of the Zero Waste Master Plan from 3 p.m. Till later, and a fiscal analysis of how much that will cost. The amount of money that we pay for items that residents have to pay to drop off items. Councilor Russell did an analysis indicating that the amount of money that we actually bring in is essentially minuscule. I'd like to see those numbers pulled, and I'm not suggesting that the chair do anything with that, but if you so choose, that's fine. But really like to take a look at that. Does removing that bring us closer to where we want to be? And again, the cost is, there's very few staff there. I don't know what the additional cost would be. And also, if there's an opportunity, if there's not an appointment and there's no one there and you can have access, can you drop off? And the concerns that were brought up for that, for the prior administrations and this one, was that back in the day, there'd be a backup on, Ballard Street, whatever street it is. That backup happens anyway on the weekend with appointments. During the week, there's hardly anyone there unless it's part of your business. I think all those things should be considered. The public education piece that was noted in here, it indicated that public education, as Chairman Ojeda referenced, is extremely important. Has that commenced to any extent above what we usually do? Because I know we get things in the mail periodically, this, that, and the third. Is there actual strategic plan around public education that's being coordinated, as mentioned, with police, with schools, with folks? I know there was something that came before the council recently, or was gonna come. I'm not sure if we voted or not, but there was talk about increasing or doubling the fines for dumping or what have you. So I'm just trying to get an idea of all of that.
Through the chair, so regarding the public outreach, to date, there has been a significant uptick in what we've done beyond what we've done traditionally. There has been, of course, social media we've relayed through social media, as well as we've done a brochure. We've updated that brochure to let people know what the hours are for example, the drop-off center, when items can be dropped off for trash, what happens on certain holidays they pick up and some they don't, etc. So that's all available like it traditionally has. What our goal is, as part of this plan, to task our zero waste coordinator, among others, to do more of that specific outreach that you reference, tabling at summer events.
Is this one individual or is it staff?
It'll be
number
one
of staff?
individual, but probably with from our staff, but maybe accompanied by others from DPW and or interested parties from either our steering committee or people who are participate in the Green Bags program, for example, so who have knowledge of the system. So we can get that word out of, especially for folks, we have a fairly high number of people come in and out, both in terms of students and the just general populace. And we want to make sure that folks who are new to the city understand what the process is, because it's different from one community to another. We want to make sure that they understand that. So that is being actively thought about as to what would be the most effective way to do that. I feel like I'm telling you that it's in the plan and it's all in the sauce, and we haven't done it yet, but we do have to wait. And from where I'm looking at, I want to get the plan done first, so we have that baseline established, and then from that, it's much easier then to start doing implementation.
Thank you. Sorry, my daughter's texting me. I might have to have her come in. So we have somewhat of a plan as relates to that. And I'll wrap this up. I know the chairman probably wants me to be quiet, but I'm here. So the public trash cans, woo bins or whatever they're called. I've been on the record that, in my opinion, that fell short. I pushed those big belly type of public trash cans. I'm glad the response was something. I'm glad to be a part of that. I've had that discussion with the city council, city manager. There were concerns around it being cost prohibitive or what have you. And my idea was more around targeted placement of them. Now, for the public doesn't know, those sorts of public waste or public trash containers are the ones you see in the largest cities: Philadelphia, Boston. You can go to Cambridge, Springfield, Providence, Hartford, and they have a solar component to it. There's actual sensors in there, so when it gets lower it gets filled, a sensor goes out. It allows for productive deployment of staff to empty those, and reduces litter in our public spaces. There's also an advertising capacity there. I know we've done a little bit with that. With these woo bins, they are very light, and prone to be less durable. And I just want to put on the record that, the technology that's available for that, the advertising capacity for whatever company that is with the solar powered aspect to it, and the fill sensors, does lead to savings in terms of person power or manpower or sheep power, whatever power you want to call it. And I think we could do more there. The yellow trash bags are an issue. We talked about the recycling bins. At the end of the day, some of that's DPW, but the end result is a city that's littered, a city that is not as green as we could be, and there's concerns around, as you mentioned, bins and wind and all of these things. Now, as a social worker, I have a person I work with in the city of Dorchester, right outside of Boston. Maybe that's Boston. I don't know if it's two different cities. I can't figure it out. Cherry Valley, that type of thing. So Dorchester, three-deckers all over the place. And I got the information from the CEO or CFO, whatever it's called, of the company that does their recycling and does their trash removal or pickup. And like I said, three-deckers, similar to Worcester in some ways. And they have the big bins for trash. And on the back of the thing, I videoed it. They're picking it up and they're putting it down. They push a button. Same thing with the recycling for those larger bins. Now, there's been some concerns in the past about, having one section of the city, say, single family, two family houses versus the three-deckers in Green Hill and these other places, Vernon Hill, downtown, where there's more density. But we look for variability, and options. And I got to think that can help with this plan. We had some of the young people at the schools who brought forward the idea of taking some of those yellow trash bags and put them in our community centers, our neighborhood centers, free of charge on the city, for people that are cost-strapped. I mean, if you're a single mother of 5 or a single dad of 5 or just a traditional family, two-parent family, whatever the gender may be, and you have all those people in recycling and trash bags. It's a lot of money, and they did it once last year. They did it. They went out to Friendly House. They went to some of these other spaces, but I'm interested to see what they do in other cities, and is there a way to get away from the yellow trash bags? I think it's a major barrier. And again, going back to the drop-off center, we've talked for years about, hey, there should be a place. You miss your week, you miss your day, you're sick, you oversleep, you got a whole nother week. Say it's summertime, and all the rodents and rats and all those fun things are out. What do we do? Is that addressed in your plan, the last part, about, the yellow bags and having a place where you can leave them if you miss, so you don't have to hold it for a week, or maybe it ends up in one of our public trash containers because they can't deal with it for a week. Through the chair.
Through the chair. So that's a great question, and we have looked at that. It is, unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer. It is not the obvious fix, which would be to allow folks to bring their trash bags to the drop-off center and have a collection site there.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there are state regulations that prohibit that without getting a special permit. We are looking into what the effort would be to get that permit. It's not an easy lift, but we are looking to see, just how hard a lift is it? Because effectively you create a space where it's now a transfer station that allows you to store waste temporarily and then transfer it to a proper facility. That is like I said, is a bit challenging to do, and there hasn't been until very recently, where I think more and more people have started to bring this to the fore, a big push for that, but we are looking into it. So I can't promise that we'll do it. It may not be something that's in the long-term interest due to price or other logistical requirements of that permit, but it is something that is definitely being looked at. And if not there, is there another alternative? Because I do think that is something that, to your point, in the summertime in particular, that could be a real help for folks who miss for vacation or whatever reason, miss their week.
Is there any, or should there be, and I might be stretching the definition here, Chairman Ojeda, zero waste master plan? Now, this is a public health thing that may have come up in your committee. But when I think of waste, I think of human waste as well. And we have a number of folks here who are unsheltered. I've called for public bathrooms and public facilities. We don't have them in our parks for our kids and our youth. In some parks we do, and some we don't. There's a whole dance around that with parks. But is there any place for human waste in this zero waste master plan? Through the chair.
Through the chair, no, that's not included in this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Councilor King. Through that, I just was able to come up with some questions, but I definitely want to make sure we get that chairman's order in. But do you have an idea of what the cost is for removal of trash for our city?
I haven't done the math out, but I can give you the rough numbers, is that we generate about 22,000 tons of waste per year, which is actually per capita one of the best in the state, and in fact one of the best in the country. We're actually very good at that because a lot of it is diverted through our recycling efforts. Pay as you throw, just so you know, is understanding that you have some concerns about, and I appreciate those. But Pay As You Throw program is a very effective way to encourage people to recycle more because you're paying for the yellow bag, and that in effect has made our total amount of trash lower per capita than many other communities, most. So we are being charged right now somewhere in the order of just under $80 a ton. That expectation, though, is that those costs, when we do our, that contract is a 10-year contract. That contract is also going to be expiring roughly at the same time as the Casella contract, coincidentally enough. When that expires, current prices are about 50% higher, so about $120 a ton, which is significant, obviously a significant increase, which is why looking for ways to not only increase our recycling rates, but potentially remove some of our organics from our waste has such real potential value for the program. So that's why we're paying close attention to that. So I haven't done the math, what the 22,000 times 80 is. Maybe someone did it on the computer.
22,000?
22,000 times about $80, just under $80 a ton. That's how much we spend cumulatively on average over the last couple of years.
22,000 times 80 tons? I mean 80?
Yeah.
You got 1.7.
Yeah, so 1.7 million we're spending, and that's just for on the waste side. So it's the stuff that comes from the yellow trash bags. It doesn't affect everyone in the city for sure. That's only the people who are in 1 to 6 family units. So that represents a significant but a fraction of the total. So there's all the commercial businesses. There are all the people who live in larger multifamilies, schools, etc.
So,
not included in that.
The purchase of the yellow bags, does that help offset?
Correct.
Do we have an idea of what that looks like?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
We had it before, I don't remember.
Yeah,
You can
it
get it.
came up once before. For reference, so I can tell you that on a per capita basis, for folks who used in the pay-as-you-throw program like we have here in Worcester, our costs are actually significantly lower than the costs for like surrounding communities that don't have that program. Often by the order of 2 or 3 to 1, our overall costs are less because we're not only using less and people are being more responsible because as I mentioned, there's an incentive to minimize the recycling that goes in the waste stream. But also because you have one contractor doing it all and we can get volume discount for that when we go out to bid. When you have multiple vendors who work in a city, they tend to have a much smaller volume and therefore have to charge more to make a profit, and the customers end up paying that.
Okay, thank you. Do we share that information though with the residents? I think it's important for the residents to know, because they're the residents to know, because they're the ones that are making, you know, the best in the country statement, right? Helping us. I think that's information that we need to send out to show that, you know, a lot of people are against the purchase of these yellow bags, but at the same time, we're showing that we are making a more of at least in the U.S., making a statement on it can be done, but we are still looking on ways to help our residents, and we understand the issues with the yellow bags.
Yeah, through the chair, that is something that I have, I think absolutely should be made more public. Candidly, we are, our former zero waste coordinator moved on to a different position. A few months ago, we are in the process of hiring a new one. Until that person comes on board and we get them up to speed, that efforts like that are challenging to do with limited staff. But I think once we get that person on board, that is exactly one of the goals for that person.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I completely agree with you, yes.
All right, thank you. And then when it comes to the woo bins, you know, they're out there and we're looking to put out more. Can you let me know what are some issues that we've dealt with when it comes to the woo bins? And then, because at the end of the day, we rely on the individuals once again. They're the ones that are putting the trash in the woo bins. So if you could just fill me in on that.
Yeah, so I've got good news and, you know, some challenges too. The good news is that the cost to manage these bins has actually been a little bit less than we anticipated, so there's been some savings on that level. The bins are, we've targeted them based on, as I think I may have mentioned in a previous meetings and outreach, but to let you, just to remind folks, is that we did a crowd map survey, so we got a lot of input from the public on that. We also worked with locations where bus stops are. We found out that actually that's one of the prime locations for one of these. We get a lot of, the bins tend to fill up much more quickly there, not surprisingly, but it would make sense. People are very responsible at those locations too. The amount of contamination at those sites is very low compared to others. We think that's just because people have a little bit of time. They say, oh, well, I can, you know, they actually can read and take the time to read it, what goes where, and do it responsibly. When people are just going quick, you know, sometimes you miss it. But so that's all positive news. Some of the tough pieces is we've had some areas that have had more dumping than others, and we've had to deal with that. We've also had some locations where we've noticed and have some evidence to say that they are not being used as much as we would like, and so we've tried to have them move into other locations. Sometimes that's been a little bit more of a challenge for our vendor to coordinate. They are having problems with staffing on their side too, which is not an excuse, but it's
Who's
the
the
reality.
vendor?
Casella. So we're looking to solve that with them. We're working with them on that. They are trying to be responsive. I appreciate their efforts on that, but it is something of a concern that we want to make sure that that gets done on a more timely basis. And we also have just the normal life situations where, you know, drivers have hit some of the bins. And so we've had to we had a couple reserves and we've been able to use those, but obviously we want to keep that to a minimum.
Plowed over a couple.
No plows yet. No
I
plows
see
yet.
one a little tilted. But
But I'm sure that's inevitably going to happen, especially after this recent storm. But those are the basic concerns that we've had, but the challenges, but all manageable. Most of, I will say this, one last thing, is that we've had a fair bit of feedback on the survey from that. We asked that question about whether the people liked the bins or not and liked where they were placed. And while there were certainly people who suggested other places to put the bins, and we would agree, if we had more resources, we'd put more out there as soon as we can. But overall, the response was actually quite positive. People liked being able to have that choice, that option, especially in the warmer months where a lot more people are on the streets walking. And so having that has been was encouraging to see that was received well.
okay, thank you, Councilor Rivera.
Just have a follow-up question to the chair to the administration. You mentioned $80 a ton, and then with the new contract here, $20 a ton, but the $80 a ton stays until mid 2027 or end 2027. Starting new is when it jumps to 120. You're saying?
That's the estimate right now.
Estimated.
Yeah.
Got you. Based on the contract.
Current contracts are 120
All
a
right.
ton, yeah.
And then I guess I'll be putting you guys to work or Casella or stuff like that because of my next agenda. I'm asking for more Woobens in Tagna Square because there's none there at all.
We recognize that Tatnick
Okay.
Square is a place that we may be able to move some into that location.
Okay.
So hopefully,
Good to know.
probably not
Sure.
with the current weather
Right.
situation, but as soon as
course.
things melt, we could do that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I was wondering, lastly, it's good to know that, you know, residents, you know, when they're getting off the bus, probably jumping off the trash, or when they're waiting for the bus, jumping off the trash. Do we have like notifications within the bus to say, you know, bus stop, maybe in Councilor King's voice, you could say, you know, empty out your trash on the way out? But do we have that on the bus lines, other than just bus number, whatever?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, before we file, let's make sure we have that chairman's order. Oh, one thing, Councilor King?
Thank you. Just listen to a little bit of this. If you could explain again the emptying of the Woo bins. How does that work? Notification, is it a sort of done on a certain day? Like, how does that happen when they're overflowing? Does that require citizens or businesses to notify? In addition to that, when I requested the piloting of big belly type of solar trash cans, one of the things that, as I mentioned, it notifies, but we were looking at providing that in the business corridors, Tatnick Square, Burncoat Street, Lincoln Street, Graffin Street, Main South, Middle Main, Burncoat Street, etc., Webster Square, and more. So how is that currently done with those receptacles, and what is your assessment of that process?
Through the chair, so the bins are emptied on a weekly basis. There is no necessarily set date. It's usually in the beginning of the week, but depending on weather and other circumstances, the day may move. So it's not hard and fast, but it's weekly right now where they are doing that, and that has been, for the vast majority of the bins, that has been sufficient. There have been occasions where we've had bins that have we've been notified through 311 that the bins are full and we need to overflow, or that they've been, that there's been dumping at the site as well. Those then are usually within a day or two. We've been pretty good about getting the team out to deal with those specific bins as on an as-needed basis. So that's the process right now. We are looking, while we don't have, as you noted, the big belly bins in place, we are looking.
Tight bins. I'm
tight
not advocating for
not necessarily
yeah,
for big
correct.
belly themselves, yes. But that type of technology that you refer to is available as a add-on, as a separate, and we are looking into doing, especially areas where we have noticed that there's been dumping calls to 311 in particular, where we could add sensors to those that could, at the very least, note the weight that's added in, and so once it reaches a threshold, that can trigger a automatic call to get it emptied. So that's coming. Obviously, won't happen until probably at least into the spring, but we plan to do that.
Thank you, Chairman Ojeda. I appreciate that. I'm aware of that from the prior report about the potential for those sensors. I know that those solar-powered trash receptacles also have a compacting component to it, where for the public purposes it compacts what's put in there, and it reportedly saves money and city resources. So is there a add-on for these Woo bins for solar compacting, through the chair?
Through the bins that we have currently, no. That through the chair, that option does not exist. Which is not to say that, as I mentioned, or hopefully I mentioned, this whole process to date, this is a year pilot. We're still in that first year of this pilot. We expect that at the end of the year, and we make this more of a ongoing basis, we will probably make some tweaks to that. We may, in fact, look at other opportunities in targeted areas based on the feedback we get, whether it be solar power compacting ones or otherwise. That is all part of what the pilot's about. So that may be the case. As I mentioned, I think at a previous meeting, those are significantly more expensive, about 5 times more expensive, so it would have to be targeted. But there may still be value for that, and we will certainly explore it.
Thank you. In closing, Mr. Chairman, you know, my concern, like it's a question and a concern. The concern is, what is it, additional 150, what is it, potentially? Is there an additional 150? Additional 120, additional 100 plus. I question our capacity to manage that effectively. I'm not sure how effectively, I don't even know how we're measuring whether or not we are managing those current trash bins. Not to say to be prohibitive, just to be real. Like, what do we need? Do we need more staff? And what is the Casella thing? Like, what's the deal? Do we have, so the question, so that's a concern. The question is, do we have a current mapping of where they are that can be provided to council if you haven't already? I've seen the crowdsourcing thing, but is there currently a latest update of where it's where things are currently mapped? You know, and with, you know, on that mapping, maybe high usage, you know, color coded or something like that. Does anything like that exist through the chair?
Through the chair, there is a map that certainly we can give you that shows the locations of where the bins are. We are actually in the process of trying to update that for recognizing that some of the bins are used less. But what we're getting to date is more anecdotal information as to where bins are not being fully well utilized, and therefore maybe we will move a few of those. So I don't have that second part that you're looking for, which is to give you the more detailed information about which ones are filled all the time and which ones aren't. We have evidence on some of them that are clearly not being used on a regular basis, and we intend to move into locations where we expect to get more volume out of it, but to get the more detailed nuance that you're looking for, we don't have that.
Well, I would like to see that. I think that would be helpful. My concern, and no disrespect to my fellow colleagues that are district councilors, with some of the locations, I think, and this is prior to Councilor Rivera, and I'm sure Councilor Ojeda would never do such a thing, but some of the district councilors have placed them in places, I call them feel-good locations, where folks are asking for them, they're not being used. In some instances, it doesn't make sense, but it may have reflected some minimal requests, or hey, we don't have them here. And I'd really like to see some sort of color coding of usage and what corridors of the city for an, you know, as an at-large council, so we can see strategically, operationally, you know, how we meeting the needs. How is this overall affecting versus individual district councilors' advocacy or at-large councilors' advocacy or mayoral advocacy? Let's use our resources the most way effective, the best way and the most effective way. So that's the purpose for that, those sort of questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Council King. Just for clarification, it says here 150 new dual stream public waste bins.
So yes, through the chair. So 150 waste bins. I was mixing, and my apologies. The expected increase in pricing per ton is going to 120 from 80. Separate topic.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So can we just get some, Claire, if you could help me out on the chairman's order?
Through the chair, my understanding, and please feel free to let me know if this meets the request. Request city manager, request Department of Public Works and Department of Sustainability and Resilience to provide council with a report regarding the feasibility of expanding residential drop-off hours, lowering fees, and eliminating the need for appointments. Does that, through the chair to Councilor King,
Yes, that's sufficient. I would ask for a roll call on the chairman's order if possible, so it can be as strong as possible.
Councilor Ojeda, if you would like a roll call?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
And Chairperson Councilor Ojeda.
Yes. All right, we'd like to move to file,
Counselor Hayda, would you like a roll call for that?
please.
Counselor King,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Counselor Hayda.
Yes. Yes. Okay, moving on to 3B, transmitting informational communication relative to implementing a pricing plan for municipally owned electronic vehicle charging stations, EVCS. And if my colleagues don't mind, I'd like to take these items together, B and C. And C is transmitting informational communication relative to the electric vehicle charging stations crowdsource map. Councilors, do you mind if we take them together?
No.
Nope, no mind at all.
Okay, Mr. Odell, you're up again.
One-stop shopping here today. So through the chair, so the pricing plan, just to talk about, we have about, right now, about 28 units where we have in the city, where we have charge folks. They are in multiple, in our garages. We also have them at 25 Mead Street, and we also now have them at South High School. New ones are have been activated but are not being charged a fee right now over at Doherty High School as well. We're getting them on board the system very shortly. Those we had to look into assigning a fee for those for that electricity, as well as so we could recoup those costs to help offset the cost to maintain those facilities as well.
Could you repeat that, please? I lost you.
My apologies. So basically, that we are now charging a fee for the electricity. For there was a little while there where we did not, but now we do. The reasoning for that is that we have to maintain those facilities. That is a fee that we do pay for, and we want to offset that fee's cost. That cost translates to about 30 cents a kilowatt hour based on the current usage, and the price of electricity that it costs us. And so that's what we're doing to date, and that was the reasoning why.
Okay. So as far as, because it seems like we're since we're just taking them both together. So we've started since April, is that correct? On the charging?
Correct. Since April, we've actually started charging money for using the charging equipment.
Okay. So we're saying April of 2025.
Correct.
Correct. So do we have an idea on how it's been working?
To date, it's been working well. Our vendor ChargePoint has, they are one of the larger outfits on this. They have a pretty good system in terms of how they are managed and maintained, and we've been pleased with them to date. So no complaints there. The units have been uprate. They're on time. I mean, I'd say their availability time has been close to 99%. So that's pretty good. So we're happy with them.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as, it seems like there's an obvious push for these charging stations. Do we see more, is there a trend, or do you see more residents buying or using more of these EVs?
Through the chair, there has been a slow but steady uptick in the uses of these charging stations. We are, which is the other item that you noted, is we did want to do a crowdsourced map to note where new locations would be best serve the public as EVs are sold throughout the city. We have received a number of good suggestions. We did receive a grant recently, which I know came up at a subcommittee meeting yesterday as well, which was talked about at that meeting regarding some specific monies that we received from that grant to put those in residential multifamily areas that typically haven't received EV charging stations to date, and where it's harder to install a home system. And so we are looking to do that through this grant, and as part of that effort, we were also looking at places that may have future locations, and we are hoping that we can use this for, ideally, that we target areas that are publicly owned lots that can be used during the daytime for any vehicle, but at nighttime targeting specifically for EVs so that they can charge up at night. That's when these are level 2 chargers, which means they take anywhere from like 6 to 8 hours to fully charge the vehicle. So you need them usually to have them there for an extended period of time. It's not for someone who's using a business who's going to drop in for an hour or less. It's probably not as good a location. So we're not targeting that kind of space. So that's the difference between the two, and that's what we're hoping to target, those locations where that value add makes sense.
Right, yeah, I was wondering, I know one of the locations we had talked about last night, and you mentioned it earlier, is the one on Oberlin Street. It's in the college neighborhood. There's a public school there as well. There are several 3-deckers. Is there any type of research or data that shows that in this area there will be, in that neighborhood a lot? I very rarely see, these EVs in that neighborhood.
Through the chair, it's a great question. There is no specific research on that. It's a kind of a chicken egg thing. If we build it, will they come? I don't know. But we do know 2 things that I can tell you with confidence is that one is that not just in Worcester, but in many communities, the EJ areas, environmental justice areas, have far fewer of these charging stations than non. And ironically, nowadays, the cost to buy an EV car, electric vehicle versus a gas-powered car, is used like a 3-year model, are very comparable. In fact, EVs tend to be slightly less, and their operating costs and maintenance costs are definitely less. They recently did a study where they compared a small SUV and a small, a mid-size car, compared an EV version of that with a a gas-powered version of that. And the overall cost savings over I believe it was from year 3 to year 10 was $12,000 for a small SUV, electric vehicle versus a non, and $10,000 for just a standard sedan. So from where we're sitting now, we're actually realizing that it's actually cheaper for folks to own, especially folks where you have more limited means. You might want to seriously consider getting an EV because it'll cost you less. If you have to get a new vehicle, a used vehicle, that may be something you'd want to pursue. Obviously, everyone can choose what they'd like, but we think it's important that given that information that we have the availability of EV chargers in places so they can take advantage of that opportunity if that's something they want to consider.
Okay, so thank you. Last one for me. Say it just doesn't work at that area, that location, right? The numbers just aren't mathing, as they say, right? Are those removable? Is that something that is not part of the grant? Does the grant allow us to say, okay, this location we thought was going to work, it's just not working due to whatever reason?
Through the chair, so that is not included specifically in the grant, no. However, having said that, we can, there is a fee involved, but there are ways to turn off that unit and move that unit somewhere else. It's not, we wouldn't do it lightly. There would be an expense involved, but that is an option, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's that area I'm just a little concerned with, just because of it is very well traveled, but I don't see many, like I said, EV cars, or maybe Clark has a bunch of EV cars that they want to put up there as well. So, Councilor Rivera?
Might just a clarification through the chair to the administration. Just you mentioned there's 28 units. Is that like 28 EV chargers in the city of Worcester?
Through the chair, no. There's quite a few more,
Okay.
hundreds actually,
Okay.
but 28 that are owned by the city.
Okay.
So most of the others, the vast majority of the others are owned by private business.
Okay, yeah,
or
so,
private
okay, but I'm saying the city only is
Just
28.
city-owned only.
Okay,
Correct.
and obviously those are put in city-owned property areas,
Correct.
and the ones that you got the grant for would also be part of that added to the 28.
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
All right, and then the next question I had, I'll be a little greedy, is are any of those in the District 5 area? Because
Through the chair, I'd have to check the map off the top of my head. I don't believe so, but I can't say with certainty at this point. The list, I don't think I have it with me. So I can tell you right now, we have, we're looking at Oberlin Street. We're looking over at,
It's Oberlin. It was gonna be Quinsignment Ave, but I think we're working on that. Oberlin, the Russell Street area,
yep,
and then I believe,
how many does the grant allow?
4 locations.
Oh, 4 locations.
Four
Okay,
locations,
So
with,
it's only 4 new ones. All right, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
on the, sorry, Councilor King, while you're going through your notes. With these private stations, are they paying to the city? Is it like a rental property they pay to the city, a tax, whatever, I mean, how does that work?
Through the chair, no, they're putting them at their own, on their own property, typically. So, there's so gas stations, a few have them as well. One of the dry cleaners over near the CBS has them off Gold Star Boulevard. Some of the schools have them. If you are interested, there's an app called PlugShare. If you download that, they will tell you all that are listed and available, and not only which ones are available, which ones are under maintenance, and which ones are level 3, which is the fast chargers, versus level 2, which are the slower chargers. So all that information is on that app.
With a lot of development in our city, are we pushing for some of that within the parking? You know, some of these developments have parking on site. So are we pushing for that?
Through the chair, we do push for that gently. We want to make sure that we're not being burdensome on that, but you'd have to check with specifics with the folks in the planning department over what the zoning regs now require. But I believe I think it's 10% of the parking should be EV or EV ready, which is separate from actually installing all the equipment, but installing enough so that if they wanted to do it, like the conduit pipes, so
Correct,
that if
yeah.
they decided to do it, it would be much easier to do as a retrofit. So I believe that's part of it, but I don't want to misquote the specifics, so
Okay.
I will not.
No, thank you. Councilor King?
Thank you, Chairman Ojeda. How big is your department?
We are currently at 8. We have 2 open positions, so 10 total positions.
And what's the turnover been like?
These are the first 2 open positions we've had. So
it's been pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. But it is 20% right now
Right.
down, so it's noticeable.
Thank you for that. I mean, there's a lot of good work that has to be done and that you've done and will continue to do. Regarding the 5 locations that have been selected, sounds like Councilor Ojeda, I almost said Rivera. Councilor Ojeda is aware of Oberlin. You mentioned Quinsignment, Russell Street. It says here 3 to 5 locations for the $500,000 grant. What are the other 2 locations?
Yeah, through the chair, I should know that off the top of my head, but I have not memorized that, and I did not write it.
Okay, it's fine. We can
But I can get
come
that
back
for
with
you.
that. As it relates to the locations, my understanding is currently we have them in public spaces, for lack of a better word, schools, I think.
At a couple of our high schools
Burco,
and at our
maybe?
public municipal parking lots.
Right. And so these locations here will be similarly situated on public property. Is that right? The 3 to 5 through the grant?
They are actually on the street, so the idea is that they will not be in public
Okay.
parking lots. The idea would be that they'd be street availability for people who park, who typically don't have a lot or a driveway that they can park in.
And briefly, what was the criteria that you used to select those?
The grant required that, for obvious reasons, that there was electricity available. So that was obviously one. That they were in an environmental justice area, that
That
they
was the question.
targeted multifamily locations in particular, and what was the last? And that there'd be level 2 chargers.
Okay. Can you just explain for the public the importance of this approach to an environmental justice area from your perspective and your expertise?
Through the chair, so I alluded to it a little bit earlier. Part of the concern that Councilor Ojeda mentioned, and right, understandably, and others have mentioned, is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of EV uptake in some of our environmental justice neighborhoods. We don't see as many of the EVs, but part of the reason we believe is that if you don't provide the resources to use them effectively, people aren't going to buy them. I know there's a gas station down the street. It's something that I've known for my whole life. An EV, I don't know where I'm going to charge that. You're going to, make me change my routine, and so people often resist that,
Right.
understandably. Our goal here is to make it just as easy to run and charge up an EV as it is your gas-powered vehicle. Hopefully, depending on where you live, and if one of these is nearby, it might even be easier. Having it so that you could plug it in down the street from where you live is easier in many cases than it is to have to go to the gas station in the first place. It may take longer, but you're doing it anyway. You've parked on that street the whole time anyway. Now you're just parking and charging at the same time. You get a 2-for-1. So for those reasons in particular, we think, and because the operating costs, the cost of electricity versus gasoline is actually less, so it costs less to use these vehicles, to charge them, to get them. They have less to maintain because when you look at, there's no engine, so that means there's no catalytic converter, there's no muffler, there's all those things that can go wrong on a gas-powered car don't exist in an electric car. So there's less to maintain. People say, but there's all the electronics on an electric car. I say, yes, but if you look at a gas-powered car, they have the exact same electronics now too, all the safety devices or whatever. That's a standard for both types of vehicles. So really, when you're comparing apples to apples, the maintenance costs are lower. The cost to charge or to fill up the tank versus a car that has to fill up the tank, the cost to use the car are lower. And as I mentioned just recently, the cost to actually purchase the cars have now become, especially used cars, have become much more in line with each other. For all those reasons, we expect, especially on the used market, which is the majority of the market, that more folks will take a harder look at that if we can provide the equipment in the neighborhoods where they can actually be used well. So that's ultimately the whole point.
Thank you for the explanation. If you could just speak to, in this document that's back from last year, just about a year ago, indicates that the stations that were installed by the Department of Public Facilities and the ones installed by National Grid over at Union Station and Major Taylor Garage would be transferring. Have those completely transferred to the municipality, the maintenance?
Through the chair, so the city now owns those stations, yes, and we have been working with our vendor, our ChargePoint. That contract, we are working, it's now in our law department now to help us finalize that so that we can make that maintenance side of the equation include that as well.
And that $50,000 amount includes that maintenance, is that accurate?
That was correct. At that time, yes.
Okay. At that time?
So that included, at that time, not just the maintenance for those 4, but also for the costs that had been absorbed from the other stations as well that we hadn't been collecting. The Department of Sustainability had we have a fund that non-taxpayer funded program that we paid for that $55,000. So basically, we made sure that this taxpayer was kept whole. So they didn't have to pay any money for this service. And then now going forward, we are now charging customers for that service. So again, we keep the taxpayer out of the equation, and only the users are now paying for that.
Thank you. How much revenue do we anticipate generating from the fee application?
Beyond the revenue to cover the maintenance fees and the cost of the electricity, virtually nothing. It's a break-even amount.
You know, Chairman Ojeda, $50,000 is a drop in the bucket. I think it goes a long way if we can continue to do that without charging them. Now, the question I have, and it's certainly not a motion or anything, is this. There's a piece in here about a forthcoming memo and ordinance. In addition to that, it indicates that the legal advice that your department received is that the revised ordinance of the city grant Department of Sustainment Department of Reliability, is that what it is?
Sustainability. Yes.
Sustainability. It grants them the authority to take care, custody, control of property, including real property interests, personal property, and tangible and intangible property as allocated to DCR by the manager and the city council. It indicates here that since these EVCs, CSs are in DCR's custody, DCR has the authority to set the rates to cover maintenance and related costs. So has that been done without the inclusion of the council?
Through the chair, that was actually part of what was brought up at yesterday's meeting, if I'm understanding your question properly.
I don't even understand it, but if you could, anything, yeah.
In the past, what we've talked about, and I think you're alluding to here, is that our Department of Sustainability now has the ability to set those rates. That is something that is actually something the city already had the legal authority to do. It's not something new. What we talked about in yesterday's subcommittee meeting was talking about allowing or regulating what happens for vehicles that overstay.
Like 2 hours.
Yeah, so
Yes.
if you overstay over 2 hours, you get charged. It's not something, you don't get a ticket for it, you just end up paying more on your
$2,
charge bill.
is that right?
Yeah, exactly. An extra $2 an hour. And then the additional piece is that if you have a vehicle that isn't an EV that parks there, the city has the authority to ticket that car. That authority now was part of what was brought up yesterday. So basically there are several items that are related. Part of what you're referencing is older, and the city already had that authority. And we're basically just reiterating that it did, and the DSR now will set those rates for those charging stations that the city owns based on our costs. And then the other that I just referenced, I won't repeat it, but just came up so to give the city authority to ticket gasoline-powered cars that park in EV places.
So my question to the chair is this, and I get the 2-hour stay and gas cars parking there. Is there ability to ticket that without having the charge for the use? Was it 30 cents per kilowatt or whatever it is? Are you able to do 2 of the 3? Is that possible? I'm not asking if that's I'm not asking if that's the best thing to do. I'm just wondering if it's possible.
Through the chair, I have to look at what our vendor can do. I know they can go down to 1 cent a kilowatt hour. Whether it can be free, I don't know. So we could, in theory, charge 1 cent. and that would work, but I don't know if we can charge nothing and then still have an overstay fee. I'd have to look into that.
And to what degree is that an issue? I read it a little bit here, 26% of the sessions, but I don't even know what that means. There's only X amount of, how many we got that are city-owned? 8?
We have 26 currently, and we're going to be adding another 12 or so.
Okay, so like 30-something. I mean, what does that really look like?
It's a relatively modest amount, but it is, our concern is if we don't catch it in the users, someone ends up having to pay for that electricity and the maintenance, and we're trying to do it as fairly as we can, such that the people who don't use EVs aren't being indirectly charged for those costs. And so 30 cents a kilowatt hour is actually lower price than what many other communities charge for that. We're trying to, not make any money on this. We're trying to keep our costs minimal, but we think it's not unreasonable to expect some fee for that. You buy the car, there are costs to put fuel in it. So that's what we're doing.
So, and the other question, it indicates here that an ordinance was forthcoming regarding the fines specifically for, or penalty for non-EV parking at EVCS, so non-electric vehicle parking. Was that ordinance created, or was it not created due to this notation?
It was created and in fact was brought up to
It was approved yesterday in the traffic.
Was that yesterday?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
The Traffic and Parking
Traffic
Committee
parking,
was
yeah.
brought
So it hasn't come to the council, back to the
Not back,
council?
not
Not
back
yet.
to the full council, no.
And was that approved?
Yesterday.
Okay. And did it set an amount through the chair? Was there an amount? Like, what's the penalty?
For the ticket, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
I thought it was $40.
It
Maybe
might be,
35, 40.
Department of Transportation Mobility is actually playing point on the ordinance piece. So they are the ones who would set that rate. I believe you're correct. I think it was 40, but they would have that specific info and related if you're interested.
Okay. The fleet of city vehicles, we have a grand total, according to this, of 3. Is that right, through the chair?
It is a modest fleet, yes.
So why the paltry numbers?
Through the chair, until, and even currently, it's been a real challenge to find equivalent vehicles. Most of our vehicles, for example, over at DPW, are specialty equipment. There are no equivalent EV versions. For our police and fire vehicles, it's been very challenging to find equivalents of what they need. They often need some of our larger four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicles. They don't make good equivalent full-size ones in EV form yet. The largest right now, the Ford Mustang EV and the Chevy Blazer EV are not sufficient for some of their needs. And so without a market for that yet, we're not recommending people switch over to a vehicle that won't do the job that they need. We are looking at, there are some smaller vehicles over at Inspectional Services and a few others that we hope we can encourage them to make that switch. Most also want four-wheel drive, which is understandable for weather like we are having today. And so, again, there are some out there, but not a wide range of vehicles available. So that's the reason why we haven't expanded it as quickly as we have. And the last reason, and by no means least, is the same reason that we want to put EV charging stations in the neighborhoods that we talked about for the grant, is that we don't necessarily have EV charging stations available at the locations where our fleets are. We are looking to correct that over the next 6 months in some key locations, including our transportation department and DPW, et cetera. But until that's in place, buying the vehicles would be premature in our opinion.
I think that there's a space here to develop some real goals for the city as relates to our municipal fleet. I don't have that number now, but I think it's certainly something we can discuss in the future. I'm gonna do some research on it and maybe file something that can come to committee. But I really think the 3 cars is it's paltry. And I hope that we can do a little bit better on that. And that's not a reflection on anything that you're doing, you know, but I know that in some spaces, when they target it, if it's light duty vehicles and there's a progression to other sorts of vehicles, would simply be in alignment with our stated goals. So I just want to state that for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman Ojeda. Oh, wait, one more thing. I know I lied. Sorry, Claire. The implementation, timeline, public communication, social media, temporary signage, the tracking of usage, has all that stuff happened, and to what degree? So, you know, here on this page has all that stuff listed. Are we doing that? It goes back to the public education.
Oh,
and
yes, through the chair. So all those pieces that you're talking about are part of most of those pieces are part of the package that we buy from ChargePoint, so we can track how much usage we're getting at our stations, obviously the costs, how long people stay at the charging stations. All that information, yes, we are tracking.
And is that part of your report anywhere?
No, we haven't actually provided all that detail in a report to the council to date, but we certainly could at the council's convenience.
So I would recommend, Chairman Ojeda, if you're open to it, that we do get a report back on measurables related to timeline, public communication, and usage monitoring as it relates to the DSS plans for EVCS charging locations, social media, website, and tracking, et cetera.
Sure. Just real quick before I send it over to Council Rivera, those locations, one was supposed to be, we mentioned Quinsigamond Ave, but we're working on the Crumpton Park area, Russell Street, Providence Street, and Hamilton Street. Oberlin we're working on the Oberlin thing. I'm thinking maybe Main Street might work because there's some streetlights.
It's gotta be an electric thing, though.
Right now, they have Oberlin, Russell Street, Providence Street, and Hamilton Street. Those are the 4 locations. Council Rivera? Sorry.
Through the chair, I was just going to ask if Councilor King could repeat the beginning
Sure.
of his suggested chairman's order.
Yes, and I'll give you the page too. So it's just a request for measurables related to implementation
Perfect.
of the planning for these EVCS things that include public communication via social media, website, temporary signage, usage monitoring, some data on that, and the plans again related to the overstays penalties. Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering, it sounds like this has so many different committees and departments. How do we, and I'm going to ask the chairman this, since it's your committee, how do we ensure we're not replicating work in committee? You know, certainly there's aspects to this, but, you know, we got some of this in parking, traffic and parking. I'm not quite sure why it's there, not here. If it's, the goal is related not simply to traffic and parking, it's related to sustainability, clean energy. I don't know if there's a way we can streamline things so that, you know, we can be more productive.
If I can chair the council, no, it's all, the only thing that the reason was in traffic because the part of the parking and the fines and not having the EV vehicle, gas vehicle parking, that part was in the traffic and parking. This part stays here with in urban and technology. That's it. It's not mixing but back and forth. Just they had to make that ordinance in order for it to be able to ticket cars who are not gas cars who are not EV cars.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But Councilor King, I agree. I think there is times where this can bounce back and forth. There's many times on council floor where we go back and forth. What committee do we want to send a certain item to? And sometimes it is required to be in both committees because it's there. And I think that's where we're at now with this. But I think if we can just get a better grasp on how to keep certain things, how to keep this particular item, these particular items that we're talking about in our committee, I think it comes down to just more communication, maybe prior to some of the committee meetings where we do have maybe some one-on-one conversations, so we have a better understanding before it comes to committee to identify if it is a urban technology, innovation, and environment committee or not, or how do we make sure that we keep everyone involved and understanding that this is the committee it needs to be in, and it should be the driving force. So, Councilor King, I agree. I think this is something that's going to be a conversation that we need to have and continue to have. Councilor Vera, you had?
My only question, you were talking about apples to apples with the gas vehicle and EV charge, stuff like that, and the fixing and maintenance and all that stuff like that. But because you almost got me sold on the mileage, which car can go farther? Is the gas vehicle or the EV vehicle?
Through the chair, obviously it depends a little bit on the vehicle, which you get. Overall, gas-powered vehicles still tend to have a longer range than EVs, but that gap narrows literally every year on a fleet. Most EV vehicles now get between 250 and 300 miles per charge. Most gas cars get somewhere between 300 and 400 miles in a full tank of gas. So, it's not quite there yet, but it's getting better. And for 99% of travel, 300-mile range or 250 to 300-mile range is sufficient. So I own one myself. I can tell you it's not been an issue.
All right. And then the next question is, let's say this grant program you guys got going on is a hit, and the neighborhoods have a charger, they buy a car. Is it set up where, let's say, another neighbor in that street wants to buy an EV car that they can, and then, because if it's only one car, it's level 2, 6-8 hours, he's charging overnight because you have the hours up to 6 p.m. It's like you can only do one car a night at that rate. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like you creating something that may be successful, but then you're going to be limited with how many residents in that neighborhood can buy a EV car.
Through the chair, I hope we get that problem down the road. I will say, though, that the number of charging stations, both here in Massachusetts and across the country, particularly level 3, the fast chargers, is growing much faster than the rate of new EV vehicles being purchased. So right now, there are about half as many EV chargers as there are gas stations. So, which, when you start thinking about the number of electric vehicles that are on the road versus the number of gas-powered vehicles on the road, that is a really good ratio right now for EVs. There's a lot of places you can go to get charged, far more than gas stations on an equivalent basis. So all of which to say is that I think that problem that you suggest, and very, very well may happen down the road, we would adapt to allow for either more on that location or other places not too far away that could serve the same purpose.
Got you. And how long is it's 6 to 8 hours for level 2, level 3? You said a fast charger. How long to charge a vehicle does that one?
A fast charger, again, it depends a little bit on the vehicle, but can be anywhere from as little as 18 minutes is the fastest I've heard to about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on the size of the battery.
Thank you.
Well, it's good to know. So that means those cars shouldn't be there too long, right?
On a fast charger, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so that helps. Just a couple things real quick, just to update Councilor King as well. So we did mention last night about giving councils an opportunity to be a part of the locating the charging stations. This information was brought to me during a neighborhood meeting, the Green Island meeting. So, but it's given more councilors or.
And that was part of the chairman's order that I did, right?
What was that?
That was part of the chairman's order to put?
Yeah, that was,
yes.
correct,
Okay.
because we, attending a bunch of those meetings. Was downtown an area as far as like, I know there's, by the tunnel, the property that they're building over there, was that considered, was that ever a thought? But obviously,
Through the chair, that was not one of the locations we looked at for this grant. It may be a future location. There are proportionally too many businesses there and not enough built residence locations to justify, to qualify for the grant as it is now. It's not to say that it's not a potentially really good location for them down the road, but it wasn't part of what we looked at to date.
all right, thank you. And lastly, you said there was 2 positions open. What positions are those?
Yes, we have 2 positions. We have the zero waste coordinator position I mentioned, and we also have a data GIS analyst position that's opened.
Okay. You ever thought about being a EV salesman part-time? Because you had me sold earlier.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. My commission is relatively modest. We'll talk later.
Before you go to your last thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we get a priority agenda and related timeline for the Department of Sustainability and Resilience for 2026. I think that as a committee and as a small representation for oversight of this department, I think it'll be helpful for us to keep track of that. I think what happens often in committee is we come in, we hear from the commissioners, we get little different things from the city council through the city manager or wish lists and things like that. But, it struck me when you were talking about city councilor selection. I don't know how that plays out. I'm good with city council suggestion based on what I've seen done with streets and sidewalks, for example. Things not getting done where they need to be done. Nothing here, just over the years. And one of the way to do that, I think, is to rely on the departments for leadership in that way, for priorities. We as counselors will always have different priorities at times, or maybe reprioritizing, but having a priority agenda and a related timeline for the Department of Sustainability and Resilience, I think, will go a long way. So we know when we're trying to hold this department to an oversight accounting, how that weighs out. And we'll know when it comes to staffing and budget and things like that, if we should be asking different questions at different times. That would be my motion.
Through the chair, if I could just quickly respond, just to let the councilors know. What we're going to be doing going forward, have been doing an annual report for the last couple of years. It's obviously a report looking backwards. What we're going to be doing for this next report, which should come out this spring, a firm date I don't have quite yet, but the idea we will include a forward-looking, which will basically be pretty much what you're suggesting, which will be, this is what we're planning to do next year based on our Green Worcester plan, which is sort of the big overarching, this is what we're trying to do and the timeline for it. But these will be the specific measures that we're going to be doing over the next year or two. And I think that might be very helpful for you in terms of what you can measure us if we're successful or not. And so that will be part of what we're looking at.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I know that at budget time we get those grids of what the priorities are, what have you. I think part of one of the things I'll be looking for as a minority member here on this committee is things related to HR, things related to equity, hiring practices, et cetera, as we move forward, because that's something that gets dropped, I think, in committee. So just as a heads up, those will be some of the things I'm looking for as well, in addition to the actual work that's being done. How are we being most effective? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Councilor King, I appreciate that. I think this is something that we talked about just now earlier about how do we identify those things to being in committee. I think this helps with that communication piece, and so I would love to continue that with the urban technology side of it, not just the innovation and environment committee, but on that side as well. So if we can add that to your request. And then again, that allows us to see the work that's being done or would like to be done going forward, and allows us to have better communication within this committee to support what needs to be done on the council side. So, Claire, did you get all that?
Through the chair, yes. Just to be clear, would you like to move forward with recommending the 2 suggested chairman's orders that Councilor King suggested earlier? So that would include the first one. Here would be to request the department provide council with a detailed and measurables to implement EVCS, including public communications, website communications, usage monitoring, and signage, as well as a better understanding of fines. And then the second one would be the one just mentioned, requesting that the city manager request the department provide council with a detailed plan of departmental goals, potential implementations, and timelines for 2026.
Mr. Chairman, if we could have a roll call on the second one, possible?
Sure, just real quick, Claire. That's going to include urban technologies innovation,
Sure.
correct?
Sure.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Sure, we can do the roll call.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
And Chairperson Councilor Ojeda.
Yes. And that was for the first one, and we're doing the roll call for the second one now?
Councilor,
that
I did do a roll call collectively, but if
okay.
you'd like to separate them, we certainly can.
No, that's fine, that's fine. All right, I'd like to file both, what was it, B and C? Correct.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
And Chairperson Councilor Ojeda?
Yes,
So it's a roll call to file both 3B and 3C.
okay. Sorry, move to adjourn the meeting?
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
And Chairperson Councilor Ojeda.
Yes, and thank you, Odell, for being here, appreciate it.